Hello and welcome to MultiSurf. I'd like to welcome our new users for this introductory lesson in getting started with MultiSurf. What we show here is the screen that you have just after the program is installed for the first time. The three windows cascaded we call the Entities Manager, the Properties Manager, and the Selection Set. Let's arrange those on the screen for optimal use. The Selection Set, I like to arrange it in a horizontal fashion across the top of the working screen. If we're using just one monitor, the Properties and Entities Manager I arrange along the left side of the screen in this manner. If any problem occurs in a manager that gets in a wrong position, you can double click in the banner and it'll return it to the state that you saw when the program was first opened. And then you can just simply dock it here where it belongs. The next thing we can tackle are the toolbars. I like to have two rows of toolbars. The first one we look at is this toolbar for the managers. This is redundant, so one of these we can remove, and I'm going to choose to remove the manager's toolbar, so it's gone. Here I have the tools. This has the measure and clearance and the trim snake. You can see the tooltips come on here. I'm going to park that up here in the top row. Here's our drawing toolbar for quick points and quick splines. Park that on the second row. It leaves these two. It's our mechanical view orientation used with SolidWorks. We're not using SolidWorks right now, so we'll turn that off. And the marine view orientation. If you have room, this is good to keep. You could maybe park it along the side vertically, but we're going to learn how to use keyboard shortcuts to replace this. If you don't have room or don't want it, we'll use keyboard shortcuts to replace these buttons, so we can turn that off. Next thing is to open a new model, and up pops the options dialog with the model tab showing. We can set our units to, let's say, meters and kilograms. We can set our symmetry, y equals 0. We're going to create a simple boat model. We could put in model comments, and OK. Okay, the default is this gray screen. For me, it's too washed out. So let's press O on the keyboard for options and bring up display to find custom color. Now we have our both shaded and wireframe backgrounds are a dark gray color. And here we go for that. Now, we talked about our different views. We have the X view. We look down the X-axis. I'm pressing Y on the keyboard to look down the Y-axis, and Z to look down the Z-axis. Rotate by pressing the center wheel of your mouse. You roll it in to roll it towards you to zoom in, roll it away to zoom out. If you'd like to change that, you can press O for options and reverse the mouse wheel zoom direction. This will be compatible with AutoCAD, where the previous is compatible with SolidWorks. I'm used to SolidWorks, so I'm going to zoom in by rolling the wheel toward me, zoom out by rolling the wheel away. So in the X view, I can press Q on the keyboard I usually start every model placing a point at the origin. I'll make 4 points. It's kind of give me a box for the extents that I'm looking to use. This point, to be sure it's at the origin. Okay, now I'm in my properties manager. So the properties of this point, the x value, we say delta x, that's the delta value from a certain point or another location. In this case, it's the delta from the origin, and it's delta x is 0. Delta y will change to 0. You can use tab to move to a new field, and delta z is 0. Enter. Now we can give a lesson in relational geometry. We can select this point, and instead of making it related to the origin, let's make it related to the point that's at the origin. So we choose our point. This is our parent, and we will choose this point. Preserve the absolute location. So it's delta x is going to be 0, delta y is 0, and delta z, let's make it 2. This point, let's make it related to the point above the origin. Now it's delta x is 0, delta y is 2, tab, delta z is 0. Make this point related to the point at the origin. Delta x is 0, delta y is 2, and delta z is 0. Now you can press F to zoom to fit. Roll, zoom out. Okay, now we've made some extents that we could draw some curves in, which would represent master curves of our simple canoe body hull. Press S on the keyboard. I'm going to make a B-spline with 5 control points. You start by clicking and releasing your mouse, and clicking again to make the new point. There's 2, 3, 4, and double click to end with 5 points. Start over with 1, 2, 3, 4, and double click to end for 5. What we've established is a relationship. We have parents, which are these points, and the child is the curve. We can select the curve. We can use this well-used toolbar button, select parents. We've just added all the points to the selection set. We can remove the curve, and we can edit all these points, called a multiple edit, and give them a delta x of 10. We can repeat the process here by selecting this curve, select the parents, remove the curve, and give the delta x a value of 5. Okay. We can further our relationships by selecting these 4 points and making them related to the point at the origin. Preserve the absolute location. So now you can see that when we move the 1 point, they all move together in the curve. So I can hit undo, or I can just edit this single point, delta x of 5, delta y of 0, delta Z of 0. Maybe for further editing down the road, I could put a dragging constraint on that single point so it only drags in the x direction. Okay, so now it only drags in the x direction. And undo, and we're back at 5. Let's repeat this curve, make them all related to a point here at the origin, preserve absolute location. This point, delta y of 0, and we don't know the delta z, but let's make that point so that we can drag it in the x and the z direction. X and z direction. So now we can move it up and we can move it back, but we're not going to be able to move it in the y. It'll always remain the y equals 0. We can test our symmetry by pressing F5. Okay, delta x of 10. You can press Y in the keyboard to look at the profile view. Let's make a bow curve. We'll make a B-spline curve with 5 control points. Press S. We can click 1, 2, 3, 4, and double click to end with 5. I would like to make all these points related to this point here. This point should be just a little minor edits there to make it look, and I'm sure the editing's not going to stop after we put our surface on. Take symmetry off, and these curves can now be lofted with here's our lofted surfaces insert button, C-spline lofted surface, and OK, and reasonable. F5, you can see it. Looks a little stubby. So why don't we move this point here, move this one. I'm just going to stop here before I make it worse. I want you to take over and try this on your own. Be sure to look in through our example files. You'll find a hull called demo that's in there now that's very similar to this. You can see the differences. It's sunk into its design waterline, which is something you might want to do. If there's any question on entities, what's a snake? What's an intersection snake? You can place your cursor over the entity from the insert menu, press F1, and up comes the help section for that particular entity. Please look at the example files, look through our documentation, do the tutorials, call for help. We'd love to get you started on the right foot with MultiSurf. Thank you very much.